Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Microsoft Flight Simulator, and today is the day SimUpdate 10 has dropped, and today we're going to talk about some of the new features and changes that have been made to the simulator, as well as some of the good and some of the bad. If you are interested in acquiring any of my Overkills tutorial guides for Microsoft Flight Simulator, please consider joining me on Patreon. Patreon subscribers level tier 2 and above have access to all of my guides, as well as any future updates and future guides that will be coming down the road. Link to Patreon can be found in the description below. All right, my friends. So as I said, SimUpdate 10 has finally released, and we're going to talk about quite a few of the changes according to the changelog, and then we're actually going to demonstrate a couple of things that I think would be kind of fun to check out. Primarily the multi-monitor support. It's actually been done pretty damn well. It's a very, very neatly done feature, and I want to show you guys a few things on it. A couple things on my wish list for it, but we'll get to that in just a minute. First thing that I want you guys to all be aware of is DirectX 12 has seen some improvements with Microsoft Flight Simulator with both performance and stability. However, as they say that, there's also a bug with it where it also may be basically taking up more video card RAM than what is actually necessary. It's called oversubscribing the memory. One of the things that Microsoft Flight Simulator, or Asobo, excuse me, in the changelog has specified is that if you find that when you are switching to DirectX 12 and you see that your performance is actually dropping, to try reducing some of your graphics settings, therefore releasing some of the memory being taken up on the graphics card. Now, the way that I personally read this is that tells me that it's not quite ready for us to be using yet, but that's just my personal opinion. Obviously, miles vary, performance varies. Give it a shot and see what it does for you. Now, for us NVIDIA users, DirectX 12 is not yet actually officially activated, even if you turn on in the simulator. NVIDIA users, we must wait for the next driver release from NVIDIA before DirectX 12 will officially be supported in Microsoft Flight Simulator for NVIDIA users. Yes, I'm saying NVIDIA users a lot because I want to make sure that everyone understands that if you are on an NVIDIA card right now, DirectX 12 will not actually activate. So there's really not much point in us trying to test that today, but what the hell. And then on that note, though, one of the things that did come in from NVIDIA is NVIDIA DLSS is now an anti-aliasing option with inside of the graphics and configuration. You can go to anti-aliasing and we have NVIDIA DLSS, and then you have the different modes for it. DLSS is simply another form of super sampling where it takes a lower end resolution and upscales it to make it look all nice and prettier while saving performance. This is an extremely valuable feature that is available or ideal for more of the lower end machines or machines that may be struggling to keep up with the high graphic settings that you're looking for. AMD Fidelity FX sharpening was also added to this. Make sure you guys check that out if it's applicable to you and what you're looking for. Couple of frame rate limit updates as well. You can now set it based on a percentage of what your monitor frame rate is. And obviously that would require VSync to be on. I personally leave it off, as well as HDR10. Now HDR10 actually I think was already there. I can't remember. It's honestly been a while since I've been in here. I do want you guys to sort of take a peruse. Feel free to take a look at what my graphic settings are. I know that comes up quite a bit when it comes to monitoring frame rate and things of that nature and performance for the latest release. Now, getting back into the news, one of the other things that I do want you guys to be aware of is that a major change to the G1000 NXi. It received a massive update today. Make sure that you guys go through the changelog, please. Again, a link to it will be down in the description below where you guys can find all the informational changes on the G1000 NXi. The reason why I'm making sure that you guys go through that logging and go through it very, very well is because the G1000 NXi is now the default G1000 for Microsoft Flight Simulator. Disclaimer here, folks, that does not mean that any third-party aircraft that is currently reliant upon the default G1000 will be updated. Those third-party aircraft will need to be updated, is my understanding still, in order to take advantage of the G1000 NXi. Now, the G1000 NXi is far more advanced than the default G1000, even has VNAV and a fully modeled RNAV, as well as some other very, very awesome features that it brings to the sim. So give you guys a real quick recaps. It brings a number of features, taking it closer to the real NXi using, including VNAV, procedure turns, holds, arc legs, visual approaches, accurate autopilot modes, full RNAV, and I agree, much, much more. Again, be sure to take that into consideration. Couple of cool keybinds have been added. Now, I'm not one to normally call out key binding options, but this is actually a pretty good one. Try that again. Especially if you guys are someone who is new to the simulator or just likes to take advantage of these particular options. And that is, you can now do a keybind for the taxi and navigation ribbon visual assistances, and as well as the display of multiplayer nameplates. I normally keep the multiplayer nameplates turned off because they flood the screen. I will absolutely be binding that. That way I can take advantage of that when I'm up and flying around and people are nearby. I can turn it on, see if it's anyone I know, and then turn them back off very easily without going into the menu. But the taxi ribbons and navigation ribbons as well is another big one. Again, especially if you're learning, maybe you don't know how to use text charts, maybe you don't want to use the damn taxi charts, and quite frankly, I can't blame you. So if you're someone who wants to be able to turn the taxi ribbons or navigation ribbons on and off, you have that ability as well with a simple keystroke now. That's actually a pretty good one. I'm actually pretty stoked about that. That's a good thing to mention. A couple other features to be considering is low power mode is now available in the experimental menu, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It reduces the power and GPU consumption of Microsoft Flight Simulator by disabling or reducing some of the more fancy-dancy features, if you will. For example, the hangar in the background on the menu, where it is, all detailed and everything like that. By going to low power mode, that will be just a blurred image of an aircraft in a hangar, therefore requiring less output from the GPU for something as simple as the menu. So things like that is what low power mode will do. It will reduce some of the finer qualities of life or visual enhancements to make it more of a just functional simulator, if that's what you're looking for. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Of course, as always, one of the other biggest things that they have addressed is several crashes have been fixed, ongoing performance optimizations, including fixes for several memory leaks. Memory leaks are a freaking huge one, and it seems to be an ongoing plague of Microsoft Flight Simulator. And no, that is not a shot at Asobo. It's just a fact of life that we have been dealing with for a while, and that is, I do understand the nature of the beast. For those of you who don't understand what a memory leak is, it basically means that you have a service that is using your physical RAM on your computer, and rather than just taking what it needs, it continues to add more and more. It's not doing what we call dumping the RAM. Okay, as it completes a task in memory, it's supposed to release it when it's done with it. Most memory leaks involve services holding onto that RAM, and then with every new task, it just takes more and more and more and more. And what happens is when your CPU, or not your CPU, excuse me, when your computer uses up all of its available RAM, whatever service is using it typically will crash. Hence a crash to desktop from Microsoft Flight Simulator from memory leak. One of the other cool things, fixed low frame rate when minimizing any window other than the main one. So, for example, the VFR map and ETC menus, when you minimize them and leave the main display open, we were seeing a major frame rate loss that has been resolved. So that's actually a good one too. That's one of the biggest reasons why I don't ever have any of those menus up. That one's actually been frustrating, been around for quite a while. The other one that I am kind of excited about is a faster loading sequence after the press any button screen. So for us on PC users, my understanding is right after the initial loading, the splash screen, we should see a faster load time as we are no longer using the press any button to continue. Xbox players, you'll probably see that performance as well. Fixed ATIS reporting wins in feet per second instead of knots. I am very glad to hear that. That was the one that first time I ever heard it, it caught me way off freaking guard, as it obviously made things to be significantly higher than what they were. Bunch of other weather changes that I'm super excited about. We now have the ability to experience live weather gusts. So when you have, for example, winds coming at 270 for 15, gusting at 20, you can now actually experience the wind gust at 20 knots in the simulator. One of the other things is the turbulence and drafts have been reduced by 90% when winds are at 0 knots, and they've been reduced by 50% when winds are at speeds of 1 knot. So that's pretty awesome. That's good. And no change, they said, above winds 3 knots and above. So pretty awesome. Turbulence and drafts have also been reduced by 50% at high altitudes. So again, I'm really excited about the weather improvements. Anytime I see the weather improvements, I make it a point to shout the ball out, because weather improvements are everything. We are flying, so weather is everything. Weather is our experience on the ground, on the air. It doesn't matter. Weather is going to change the way that we fly. So pretty awesome. And I'm really excited about the wind gusts. I'm sort of excited to experience one, honestly. And again, that's with the live weather, obviously. So the nice thing about the live weather when you have a live weather gust is you're not expecting it. If you configure it in the, without the live weather, that the odds are pretty high it's going to happen. So it just, I don't know, just adds a little bit more variation for the sim for me. The VFR map, I'm not going to go through all the changes, but there's been a ton of adjustments to it. We're going to go through a quick couple here. Added Navade ident search bar to pull up the Navade and airport data. They added the ability to click on Navades and airports to bring up their data as well. It'll actually bring up a second pane, giving you quite a bit of information. Intersection, ident location, NDB, VOR, and airport ident name, region location, runway, surface type, length, and available comm frequencies and available ILS and MEDAR. Whew, that's a lot. Anyway, obviously, guys, you're definitely going to want to go and read that section. There's quite a bit with the VFR map that makes it pretty helpful. I don't particularly use the VFR map. I use third-party sources such as Navigraph Charts is my biggest source. So it's really not a huge thing for me. But for those of you who use the in-game VFR map, by all means, it sounds like they're heading down the right direction to bring it closer to the functionality of a utility such as charts. Now, there are many, many, many other improvements. One of the other improvements I will mention is the Cessna 172 with the G1000 in it. They did make a minor correction, adding a bit of essentially right rudder for 1 degree of right rudder to compensate for the consistent left rolling up at cruise. So they did address that. So now we should be able to trim the aircraft out pretty well for stable level flight. It was just some odd behavior. It's not that it can't happen. It was just odd behavior that wasn't supposed to be happening under the conditions that it was. And then a ton of bug fixes. I am not even go through that, guys, but this is a very significant update. I'm pretty impressed by this one. I am super excited for this. A couple things that I do want to address from aircraft. With the TBM 930, the panel light knob no longer changes the brightness of the screens anymore. Super stoked about that because I freaking hated that, which is why I never turned on my freaking panel lights. And then let's see here. There was one other that caught my attention. There's a bunch of changes to the aircraft, but I lost it. I don't remember what it was. So we'll move on. Now, speaking to some of the bad, okay, there's just a couple real quick. Cessna Citation Longitude improvement modification that can be found on FlightSim.2 at the moment, at the time of making this recording, is currently broken. All of these screens are white, including the PFD, MFD, and TSCs, or touchscreen controllers, are all completely blanked out in white. However, the post does go on to say on FlightSim.2 that there are fixes that are known already for the white screens. It just requires manual entry until the add-on on FlightSim.to is updated, which, for all you know, by the time you're watching this, it may already be updated. And lastly, on the extremely bad news, the heartbreaking sad stuff, the Mixmugs TBM 930 mod once again is officially broken. If you install it, basically you get the top half of your aircraft. Basically what you're seeing here, nothing in the cockpit and everything underneath is gone. It is nothing more than the top half of the shell, and everything else is destroyed. So unfortunately, I don't have any kind of insight as to when that will be resolved. Luca had picked it up while Mixmugs was otherwise occupied. Hopefully he'll use his magic and once again bring our TBM 930 back to life with SimUpdate 10, but I don't have any guaranteed information on that as of yet. Obviously, as soon as it is, I will definitely be announcing that. I know many of us truly enjoy the TBM 930, especially with the G3000. So let's go ahead and talk about one last thing that I want you guys to be aware of, and that is the multi-monitor support. It's kind of a slick system. It's going to be a little bit weird to demonstrate it because how I'm going to be doing this is I have two screens on top of each other. I can't show you guys my primary screen because it is a 49-inch ultra-wide monitor, and it will just look skewy and crappy to you guys, and it will just be a mess. But I can still show you essentially what this feature does. So let's go ahead and get started on that. Okay, so getting into this incredibly awesome new feature, and I'm really thoroughly impressed by this. It really offers some extreme customization, how you want to lay out a multi-monitor cockpit. And I'm going to show you guys all the different features here, but I do want you guys to keep in mind this is in the experimental menu for a reason, so there may be some bugs, maybe some odd behavior. The other thing we want to pay attention to is the current frame rate. I can guarantee we're going to take a hit. That's just the nature of multi-monitor support. You're always going to take a hit when you're talking about multiple screens, okay? But let's see how big it is. And before we get into that, I want to remind everyone what my graphic settings are. So I'm just going to slowly scroll down through them so you guys can see how high we're really pushing this thing at the moment. That way you can make sure to take that into consideration if we do see a frame rate hit that's significant. Okay, so now let's get into the cool part. So we're going to go over here to experimental. And I'm going to trash that for a second. We're going to start over. And we're going to go to add a new render window. Now, it's very important to understand what this does. It literally, let me set these all back to default. Hang on one second. It adds and how do I put this? An extended field of view camera is what it adds. I hate people who hate it when we have to hate things that make me use the delete key. I was like, why can't I use backspace? It creates a second camera or second or third, whatever camera viewpoint. Okay. So you can't necessarily you can't zoom in on the gauges and leave that on a particular screen, no matter what you do with the camera. But what you can do is create a very customized, three-dimensional view, if you will, or, what's the word I'm looking for? Wraparound screen system, if you wanted. So, for example, you have a bunch of different screens to choose from. I'm choosing 1920 by 1080 as resolution, guys, to try to save on the camera recording. That way it doesn't bog down the system, because keep in mind, while I'm recording, that's going to give us a frame rate hit as well. So I'm going for 1920 by 1080, keeping it in a windowed mode. Now, let me show you guys what this does. This is really cool. So let's do here. There it is. Okay, so it creates a camera view, right? Now, I'm going to have to bounce back and forth here for a minute, so bear with me. But what we're going to do now is I'm going to grab this, and let's say what I want to do. So right now, it's simply mirroring what we were already seeing. So if I hit play and save, for example, and I go to resume, and I bring the second menu back up, it's literally mirroring, damn it, sorry, bad habit, everything that we're already seeing. But what if we wanted to make this camera be, if this was my second monitor and it was off my left side, well, then I would want to increase my left side field of view. So let me show you how easily we can do that. We're going to go back to our menu here, go to our general options, go to experimental again, and we're going to do now I'm going to pull this off screen for just a minute so I can make the changes, and then I'll bring it back up and show you guys. I'm going to hit my lateral rotation offset. I'm going to move this to the left. And so now, let me hit apply and save here. We're going to go back. I'm going to hit resume. Now when I bring this up, and if I click in here, watch what the cameras are doing. So I'm sure you guys can probably already see that if you have a monitor in the center, would be this one, and you have a monitor on your left side, would be this one, you could even add another one for your right side, which obviously would increase the field of view on the right side. They've done something that no one else that I've ever seen have ever done. I've seen plenty of, you have the NVIDIA span, right? Or I can't remember the word I'm looking for. So NVIDIA surround, where it takes all of your monitors, turns them into one. And, all of the different, I think even X-Plane does the same thing. It'll allow you to absolutely span it, but it doesn't give you the customization option. Let me show you what other customization options I'm referring to. So if we come back in here and we go to general options, we can do a couple more things here. Let me move this out of the way. What's one of the things that we all deal with? We all deal with the bevels, right? And the angles, the straight angles. Well, glass and field of view isn't a straight angle, right? So when we come in here, we can actually add a rotational offset. So you'd probably want something more like this. And I'll show you guys it in just a second. And maybe, I don't know. I'm just trying to give you guys sort of an idea here, so bear with me. Apply and save. I don't have two monitors side by side. Like I said, I've got a super ultra wide, but I know that there's many of you that are going to benefit from this. So now look at what we've kind of done. So now as I pick my head up, I'm looking out the front window. Now you're getting more of a realistic field of view from your left side, from your peripheral. And then as we turn, your left side and your left and right windows will always stay the same. And that's just an option. So what you can do is you can actually rotate the image to match the bevel lines. Anyone ever seen three monitors that are hooked up side by side? And for example, when a road comes across, it comes out your main window here, and then on this monitor, it'll be sort of kicked off at an angle. Now you can actually compensate for that and straighten everything out. So it's a super slick idea. I'm really, really impressed with this. And I just thought that you guys would really enjoy this. Now, notice the frame rate hit. We did lose about 15 frames for adding this second screen. But at the same token, that's really not a huge hit when you guys think about how high those graphic settings that I showed you guys were. This thing is cranked right now. It's darn near at max. I turn depth of field off, and I turn, I think, the lens flare off because I don't like the way they're implemented. But other than that, everything's maxed out. So that's really not bad all considering, and I definitely could reduce a ton of settings to make that significantly easier on the computer while still maintaining a very nice crisp image. So play around with that, guys, if you guys have multiple monitors, and let me know what your experience with this is and what you think of it, because I think it's a pretty slick idea. And you can even go full screen on the particular monitor. So it's pretty awesome setup in my opinion. Anyways, guys, as always, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it useful. Stay safe and healthy, and I will see you definitely in the next one.